All right. So first question is, drawing on your experience of working in the rail sector, what has been your biggest achievement and biggest challenge?
Ooh. Um, I think it's an interesting one because it's kind of like the same. I think biggest challenge is always going to be, for me, is going to be the commercials, because we make bespoke solutions for bespoke clients every couple of years. We don't actually do a production, whether that be for a station or a train. So that's always going to limit how much innovation we can put in there, because obviously you've got to have the return on investment, and it also limits the longevity of the project, because you've always got a feast and famine in rail. And I think that's something that we need to work on as an industry, is to get more harmonization across different clients, and also to address that feast and famine, so we've actually got contracts which align better. Biggest achievement is harder. There's definitely projects which I'm proud of, but to me it's just like it's the individual wins. So when there's an issue which is a blocking point, and we manage to get the stakeholders together and sort out a solution and a way forward, so it's no longer an issue, for me that's always a win, and that's always an achievement, because you've got conflicting needs of different people in the industry, and it can be very much it's a no-go, and then if you can turn that into a solution, that's always, to me, that's always an achievement and a win. So and that could be a big thing or a little bit.
Yep, sounds great. Second question is, talk us through some of your sustainability initiatives that you have been a part of.
So for me, the sustainability initiatives that I've been a part of are mainly around awareness and so I was lucky to be in Paris studying and working in November 2015 when the Sustainable Development Goals, or the final part of it, which is known as the Paris Agreement, was signed. So I was very much immersed in what was happening in the Sustainable Development Goals, what the conversations were at the Paris Agreement, and just very aware of the opportunity that there was with sustainable development. So when I came back to Australia in 2016, and I realized that none of that conversation had yet reached Australia, and particularly not the rail industry, then I saw an opportunity, and also through frustration and desperation, when I need to get the message out there, and I need to start making people aware of the opportunity and also the importance of sustainable development for the future. So I got involved in various different committees and communities, and just constantly annoyed people with the topic. And that then started to get some traction, and then other people started talking about it as well, because they clicked. And I think if you say it enough, people start to hear it. And so it's taken nearly 5 years of constantly repeating myself, but now I'm seeing it get some traction. And to have my time on YLab, which is the ARA's Young Leaders Advisory Board, and to repeat it in that forum, and for them to pick it up. And if you read the Value of Rail report that they released recently, in one of the pages they have the Sustainable Development Goal icons, and they have the importance of rail for those Sustainable Development Goals. And that to me was a massive win, because I knew that my constant repeating the message was finally starting to get through. I don't think it's fully there yet. This is the start, but it's taken 5 years to get it into a document which has been released, and that is a massive achievement for me so far.
Yep, sounds great. Moving on and continuing the sustainability trend the next question is, what does sustainability mean to you, and what are your key sustainability goals as a leader within NTM?
So sustainability to me, and this is actually a definition given to me by one of my old university lecturers, is to make sure to use the resources you have today, but leave enough for tomorrow. So you don't use everything you've got today. You need to leave enough for what you plan to do tomorrow. And that just continues. And if you keep doing that, you're going to be sustainable, and you're not going to run out of resources. And that could be financial resources, that could be people, that could be materials, that could be the natural products we have, and making sure that we don't use too much fuel too fast, all of these different aspects. So For me, sustainability is not just about the environment. It's all about people and the community and making sure we have sustainable communities. That when we leave some infrastructure behind, or we leave a railway service there, it supports the community and it actually connects the communities. There's a project in South Africa, the HAL train, and by connecting a remote community to the city centre, they managed to improve people's education, people's work opportunities, and people's healthcare opportunities. And that, to me, is everything that rail can provide for sustainability. Now, within MTM, what I try to look at is more the financial sustainability and what are we doing for the asset life cycle of the products and the assets. So rather than saving money in the capital expenditure and buying a cheap product, which is going to cost millions of dollars to maintain, let's look at the overall life cycle of the assets and see if we spend a little bit more at the beginning, do we save money over the lifetime? I don't sit in the asset management team, so I'm not directly responsible for that, but it is a conversation. Again, if you keep asking the questions in the right forums, it gets into people's minds and people start to consider that for themselves when they are in those discussions.
Yep. Next question is, as someone who actively advocates for sustainability and carbon neutrality, what projects are you working on or aware of happening elsewhere that would excite you?
Oh, there's so much that excites me about different technologies and projects around the world happening for sustainable development. Like I said, there are things in the environmental space and the carbon neutrality space. So you've got the word circular economy, or the term circular economy, is now very popular, and that wasn't the case about a year ago. It's now hit the rhetoric, it's now hit the common discourse about circular economy. So moving towards a zero waste and actually repurposing, reusing, recycling. That to me is very exciting, just the potential that has. There is, on that topic actually, there's a very clever human called Veena Sahajwala at the University of New South Wales that is doing a micro lab for micro recycling, and it's actually repurposing the materials, turning them back to their original state to then reuse them. It's just fantastic science that fits in a basement. It's amazing. When you look more at the sustainability of community, I really enjoy seeing what's happening with moving towards cycling and walking around the cities. There are a lot of cities and city centres at the moment which are going car-free around the world. That really excites me. One, because of what it does for the livability of the city and for the emissions impact, but also what it does for public transport. Because if you don't have private transport in the centre, you need to have a very good public transport structure to support that. Because not everyone can walk across the city. You need to have your trams, your buses, your trains. So from that also very much excites and interests me. And then there's also the micro activities, things, I'm trying to remember what their name is now. There's a glasses company, and they'll come to me, but they use fully recycled products. There's so many different technologies which are using fully recycled products now, and people are being very smart about how they create new innovations with sustainable solutions, whether that's for cleaning the oceans, whether that's for making new funky clothing wear with recycled materials. There's a lot happening. If you look at the SDGs, there's 17 different goals. Each of those has different activities. Each of those has about 100 people doing something really interesting and cool. So there's a lot. It really excites me. The whole field really interests and excites me.
Yep, moving on to the next question. The transport industry is still heavily male-dominated statistically. Do you have any advice for other young women looking to enter the workforce or further develop their careers?
Yeah, I think number one, and I've said this for a long time, don't go in as I'm a woman who is an engineer, or I'm a woman who is a lawyer, I'm a woman who is in commercials. Go in as this is my role, I'm an engineer, I'm a lawyer, I am station staff, whatever it is, and also a woman. And having that mind frame switch means that you are instantly respected for your career and not just because of your gender. There is a lot of positive discrimination in the industry, which really doesn't sit well with me. I understand that people say it's a necessary evil. It's got its positives, but it's also got its negatives. I get very concerned about positive discrimination and what that does for the long term. like, again, it's a very good short-term fix, but is it a good long-term fix? I have my reservations. So I think just going in, knowing that you know your stuff, knowing you are there for your competency and you're not there because of your gender, is something which will stead people very well going forward in their career.
Yep. Okay. Next question is, there is a big push for young career professionals to have their career paths or progressions planned out. Did you have a set plan for your career?
No way. I think I thought I did, but yeah, that got chucked to the bin very quickly because things happen. The market changes, your personal circumstances change, opportunities you didn't think would be available crop up. I've just gone with what opportunities have interested me at the time. I've gone, what does this look like going forward? Because I kind of know where I want to go and what I want to get to. And I've always said, does this next opportunity put me on that path, or does it take me off that path? And if it takes me off that path, is that for something bigger and better, or no? So yeah, I don't really plan. I just see what comes along and where I am at the time, and then make an assessment about whether you should or shouldn't go in that direction. The one thing that has helped me along the way, and that I still do rely on when looking at advice about career plans and career pathways, is my network. So if you have a good network of people you can trust for advice, it really does help. Because when you're trying to decide, there's an opportunity, I've had a phone call, there's an opportunity to come along, what do I do? Someone can tell you, yeah, that's actually pretty good, or no way, you don't want to think about that, that's not for you. So that does help. And also there are extra eyes and ears on the market if you are looking for something, and you can say to them, hey, I'm interested in moving, or I'm interested in this kind of opportunity, do you know of anything? So having a strong network is always really valuable. But yeah, I stopped trying to plan my career a long time ago because I realized I don't have control over what's going to be available. So why would I try and plan and direct in that?
Yep. Following on with that question would be, what would your advice to people at the early stages of their career be?
One, ask as many questions as possible. Ask all of what you think are the dumb questions, because usually they are very smart questions. So never stop asking questions. Particularly in the early stages, when you have that, you're green, you have that innocence, and you can ask questions without people questioning, because you are in the early stages, you're learning. Just ask as many questions and you'll have answers without judgment. And the other thing as well is network. Spend as much time as you can at industry events, because you'll meet people and either they will remember you or you will remember them, and you might need to ask them a question in the future. And you meet people who are not in your company and not in your field, so you get a different aspect about the industry. I pride myself, not my network, but I understand the industry probably more than some others, because I go out and I network and I speak to different people. I'm not professing that I know everyone in the industry. I don't think I know all of the different pockets of industry, and I'm still learning. I'm still asking those questions. When I join a new area, I ask the question of, have you got an org chart? Who's who? Like, I don't know this area. So I don't think that, like I said, you've got to keep asking questions. That never stops. But as long as you understand the network and you meet people in that network, it will open up a whole other part of the industry to you for either career progression or just someone to ask a question to when there is no one in your current bubble that can answer that question.
Yep. Moving on to the next question. This is in regards to COVID. COVID-19 has made 2020 a very challenging year for Australia, especially for those in Victoria. How have you dealt with it, and what would be your key takeaway from the year?
There's two key takeaways, I think, for me from this year. This seems to be the question that everyone asks. So, coming to the end of 2020, what's your thoughts? And so I've had a lot of time to think when people have asked me this. From a professional standpoint, I'm very proud and impressed by all of my colleagues, particularly those on the front line, who have managed to keep the services going. And as a company, I think we've been really resilient in keeping the services going. For those who have had to suddenly work remotely, and also those who've had to keep working on the front line despite the exposure to what is, a known virus, which is, quite a concern. And it's very impressive that people still go to work and they're still proud to be going to work in those conditions. So that's been my takeaway, is that we can do a lot when we have to, and I think we should, one, be proud of what we've done, but also acknowledge that we have that capability going forward. The other takeaway as well, this is more of a personal one, is the slowdown. I spent 6 months at home, and I actually loved it because I had no FOMO for the whole 6 months. I could just chill all weekend and not worry about, but I want to stay home, but also I need to go see this person. I want to go to this birthday. I want to do that. I didn't have any of that. I just fully enjoyed 6 months of permission to be a slob, and it was great, because I don't think we will ever get that again for a very long time, where you are allowed to be antisocial and introverted and look after yourself and focus on your well-being, your own well-being, without any interruptions from the outside world. So I recognized it was going to be a very short bubble that we had that opportunity for, and I took full advantage.
Staying on the COVID topic, what has been the biggest challenge working through COVID?
Well, for me, I started my current role the first week of lockdown on March 23rd. So I went to the office on the Monday, and there was no one there except for my the office support staff, because they were there to help me get my laptop and get my pass and everything. Other than that, it was just me. So I still have not met my team face to face. And we've done a lot this year. We've done a huge amount of work, and we've done it all remotely. I feel like I know them all. I feel like I've met them face to face because we talk so much and we collaborate so much. But yeah, I don't know how tall they are. I think that's the weird thing. When you meet someone face to face after working on a 2D environment, everyone just looks like shoulders and head. You don't know how tall they are. And that's the one thing, when I meet them face to face, I'm just excited to see people's heights.
Next question is, when you're delivering some of Victoria or Melbourne's biggest works, what are some of your hobbies? Have you added more since lockdown?
So main hobbies I have, I do, well, before lockdown, before it was banned, I did a lot of Latin dancing. So I actually met my partner, we were doing salsa dancing. And I do a lot of music, and yeah, I haven't actually kept that going. During lockdown, I did pick up 2 new hobbies. One is I really got into jigsaws, and I also started knitting. So that was something I didn't expect to happen, but I just needed something to, entertain myself while I was slobbering around, and I started knitting, and it was really good. It was really fun, and I've kept that going. Otherwise, yeah, I do yoga, do cycling, I do dancing and music, and now I do knitting.
That's a quite comprehensive list, I guess. With your international experience, what would be some lessons learned to pass on to those looking for a potential sea change?
There's a couple of things. One is, it comes back to network. Make sure you know people where you're going, because you can have an idea of where you want to go to, but the reality of either the living conditions or the working conditions or the cost of living there, there'll be something that may not be what you expected, which is fine as long as you then understand that, acknowledge it before you move there. And the second thing is respect the culture of where you're going, because when I moved to France, I was working there. I didn't used to take lunch breaks before I moved to France, and I was told by a colleague of mine, she's like, "No, you've got to come to lunch. It's very rude not to. It's an office thing. We all go together." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So then I started putting lunch breaks into my diary. Since I've come back to Australia, they've again disappeared, but it's, you've got to respect the culture of the office that you're going to be working in. But myself, I've loved working in different countries. I find it very eye-opening for, one, a cultural reason, but also a professional reason, because you see different ways of doing things. So you've got very similar problems, but the approaches are very different, and you can take away the best of each of those. So I highly recommend people do try and work overseas if they can, one, for the cultural aspect, but two, for just the different processes and ways of working.
Yep. Staying on the international topic, where in the world have you enjoyed working the most?
Ooh, I can't say I've enjoyed anywhere the most because everywhere is slightly different. I enjoyed there's a certain level of experience and maturity in the UK, and that was where I started from. So maybe it was in reference to my abilities at the time, but I really enjoyed working there. I learned a lot from the people in the UK. I really enjoyed working in Brisbane because the culture in Brisbane is very family based, and there's less professional barriers, as it were. It's much more communal, and also the weather in Brisbane's amazing and the nature's amazing. I really enjoyed working in Paris because it's Paris and it's everything Paris. And I really still enjoy working in Melbourne. One, the livability of the city I really enjoy. It's a very easy place to live, and the different projects, the amount of work and the interesting work and the people that are working in Melbourne at the moment, I really enjoy. So I don't think it's anywhere I like the most. There's things which are different about each place. Some things I like more and less, but overall they've each got their benefits. And yeah, I stayed working there for a reason in each place. So
Yep. Next question is, what motivates you to become better? Do you have a role model, whether it be past or present?
What motivates me to become better, I think, is just I like to leave things better than I find them. So when I go into a role, or when I go into a project, or even just in my daily life, if it's something that I can do without too much trouble, I will do it, because if you can, you just do it. So I try and take that attitude of leave things better than you found it. Obviously, better is a very subjective term, so you have to consider that one. And I've had a number of role models actually through my career, and they all kind of follow that same theme of ask questions, think critically, ask questions, and leave things in a better state.
All right, that concludes the main questions of the AMA. We now have a segment called the Rapid Fire Question Round.
Okay.
And the first question is, what is one thing that annoys you the most? Could it be a work pet peeve as well?
So non-work peeve that annoys me the most is people chewing their mouth open. I cannot stand it. It just, mesophobia. At work, the one thing that I hate the most are time thieves, as I call them. So people, when they say, "Oh, do you have a minute?" and I go, "I've got one," or "No, I'm sorry, I'm on the way to a meeting," and they go, "Oh, it's okay, I can still talk to you," and you go, "I'm sure I just said no." What? Or when you go into a meeting, you say, "I have to leave at past," and then it gets to 28 minutes past. They say, "Oh, just one more thing," and it's like, I just said I have to leave at past. So throughout my career, I've gotten better at setting the expectation up front of saying I have to leave at this time, and then as it's like 5 minutes beforehand, I say, bear in mind I'm leaving in 5 minutes, and then leave. I'm not there yet perfectly. I still do turn up late to a lot of meetings, usually about 5 minutes late because of previous time thieves, but I'm working on that because it really annoys me.
Next question is, favorite part of the week or favorite day of the week?
Wednesdays, because you're on the downward slope towards the weekend, but also Mondays I find they're fun because you're just getting into things, you're getting up to speed. Tuesdays are my worst days because your weekend's so far away and you still haven't started anything yet. But Wednesdays, you actually tick things off the list, you're up and running, you're in that groove, and you've still got time to get things done before the weekend. Thursdays are usually a nightmare because I'm trying to get things signed off before the weekend, and Fridays are always a rush to the finish. But Wednesdays, I like Wednesdays.
Next question is, first thing you did once COVID restrictions eased?
Oh, I can't remember actually. I think having a picnic with my family in the park. I think that's what I did. I can't remember. Like I said, I love lockdown. We're still doing lockdown Saturdays. So I think either picnic with my family in the park or I went out to dinner with my friends. One of the two.
Next question is, how many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
None. I don't drink any coffee. I have 1 cup of caffeinated tea in the morning, and that's it. Otherwise, I'm caffeine free.
Great. All right, that concludes our AMA. I'd like to say thank you,
That's
first
right.
and foremost.